लव thy neighbor कहाँ से आए? आप सम्मान कुछ है ही नहीं। इमोशनली इम्यून हो गए हैं। इमोशनल इम्यूनिटी हम सबको घेरे जा रही है। एम्पैथी नाम की चीज ही नहीं रह गई। कैसे जानेंगे पढ़ाई का दर? हमारे यहाँ कहा गया संत जन को सोनी चाहिए, पीर पढ़ाई जाने दे। पीर पढ़ाई कहाँ जानेंगे? और उन्होंने बात करी इंडिविजुअल की। लेट अस कम टू दी मैक्रो लेवल। सेलेक्टिवली मैक्रो लेवल, ग्लोबल लेवल पे क्या हो रहा है? कोई फर्क नहीं हो रहा जो इंडिविजुअल से हो रहा है। अनलेस वी आर गोइंग टू चेंज द इंडिविजुअल, अनलेस द सेल्फ ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल who are becoming more and more emotionally immune, who are becoming, they have no sense of self-worth. Their self-worth is coming by destruction of themselves and the destructions of the others. They will go to any extent of destroying others, right or wrong. These are the things, unless these things are tackled, I'm sorry, we will not be able to fight terrorism. And that self has to be expressed. Emotional, so I just no guilt or remorse, vacuum of real shame, guilt or remorse, रह ही नहीं गया. There is no sense of fear of God, fear of our family, fear of our nothing. That we are becoming fearless people of going to any extent. So what I have to say in the end, I will not take. I'll stop precisely in 5 minutes, Mr. Harish. And what
5 minutes was total.
अच्छा, कब से शुरू हुआ नहीं पता। कितना टाइम हो गया गाड़ी नहीं देखी। Not 1 second. I just want to say one thing. Psychological relations and bonding, not international relations, must be employed. Emotional intelligence, not counter-religious intelligence, must be used. And that's the new way of building a new psychological approach which we need to do to adapt to combat terrorism. Thank you.
Dr. Arya, Professor S.K. Gupta want to make just one point in 90 seconds. He himself has suggested he wants to make in 30 seconds.
Right. I just want to make an important point. I have the firm view that the powerful states indulge in terrorism more often than smaller nations. The US is the only country in the world. The US is the only country in the world which has been criticized by the International Court of Justice for carrying out terrorism in Nicaragua. This view has been recently confirmed by Professor Chomsky of Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Boston, USA, who is better known as most intellectual of the world. I wish to have the opinion from the panel. Thank you.
Now or afterwards? Maybe I think later because later on. Now I will ask Rekha Agarwal to read the paper of Mr. A.P. Venkateswaran, who was the Foreign Secretary of Government of India. He could not reach here, so he has sent his paper by fax.
Thank you, Harish, for the honor. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to bear with me. Whatever time it takes in reading the paper, please don't look at your watches, because this paper has not been written by me.
This is the last speech in this session at this moment because lunch is waiting.
So I'll read through the paper. The title of this paper is Terrorism and Afghanistan Development. The American response of aided bombardment of Afghanistan since 7th of October 2001 to get Osama bin Laden for his alleged terrorism on 11th of September 2001 against the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon in Washington has been simplistic to say the least. What is more, by co-opting Pakistan and mollycoddling Saudi Arabia, the two countries which have been known to actively shelter and encourage terrorists and which till the other day were close allies of the Taliban, the US administration has in no way improved the chances of achieving its declared objective, namely of bringing Osama and his accomplices to ease. Meanwhile, the turbulence all this has generated within Pakistan clearly bodes ill for the future of General Musharraf as leader of the country and raises a big question mark about the future. What kind of policy any successor regime in Pakistan will be inclined to pursue remains a million-dollar question. It is now obvious that in formulating his Afghan policy, George Bush Jr. has blindly taken a leap out of the policy in Iraq, which was followed by his father, George Bush Sr. in fighting the Gulf War to liberate Kuwait a decade earlier. The two situations have very little in common, and to emulate the blueprint followed in respect of Iraq by the 28th Nation Coalition Force was, to say the least, fraught with danger. In the present case, the only active and enthusiastic ally of the USA is the UK, but the latter should have known from its very own historical experience of the many Afghan wars fought by Great Britain in the 19th century that the psychology of the Afghan tribes comes in a very special category of its own. In other words, the Afghans have been marauders over the centuries. They glorify infighting and lend themselves easily to pillaging and looting whenever an opportunity arises, as India's own experience in dealing with the tribal invasion of Kashmir in 1947-48, which was aided and abetted by Pakistan, went to prove. To quote a well-known saying, the Afghan tribal can be rented, but he cannot be bought. Furthermore, as a political commentator put it recently, everyone in Afghanistan wants to be king, except for King Zahir Shah himself. The king, who has been living in exile in Italy for many years, is now being earnestly wooed by the US and the allies in the somewhat forlorn hope that he can bring back some order into the chaos that prevails today in the country by gaining the support of the loyal Jirga. With Ramadan having commenced on the 17th of November, the political cost to the US and the allies of continuing the military campaign is bound to escalate. As it is, there is a mounting feeling, particularly Muslim countries, that Islam is under attack. No amount of denials can be successful in removing this impression, and the earlier unfortunate reference by President George Bush to fighting a crusade has not helped. So to the formulation in one of his speeches immediately after the 11th September terrorist attack, those who are not with America are against her. The negative effects of the September 11 event and their aftermath are being felt increasingly in the downturn of the world economy, which was already in the throes of a sharp global recession. The most seriously affected sectors now are the aviation and tourism industries, which have registered an unprecedented steep decline. The possibility of a long drawn-out campaign against Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, which could extend to other countries, and the hunt to bring to book Osama bin Laden can therefore only compound the situation further to the detriment of all countries and to humanity at large. To sum up, the situation remains far from clear and shows every sign of getting worse before it can even get better. Having roused public expectation of a swift and decisive victory, there is no way that the US can leave Afghanistan without completing its mission. On the other hand, the hope for outcome of capturing Osama bin Laden and his accomplices in other countries keeps receding the longer the operation continues. This is comparable to the situation prescribed in the Indian mythological story of Gajendra Moksha, when an elephant waded into the waters of a river and a crocodile caught its foot. Although the elephant was a mighty animal and supreme on land, the crocodile had supremacy in the river. Only divine intercession, it is said, eventually helped to resolve the dilemma. The irony of the entire situation is best reflected in a recent email that is doing the rounds. Some excerpts are reproduced below to highlight the double standards that prevail in this cruel world of ours. I quote, "I remember in March 1993 when the skyline of Bombay was almost blown off with a series of bomb blasts. Thousands lost their lives, thousands others were wounded, and the poor became poorer still. We all knew who had done it, but were asked by the powerful nation to restrain ourselves and not to come to conclusions too fast, to rise over the situation and carry on the teachings of our great leaders of the past, like Gandhiji. And so terrorists like Dawood and Tiger Memon were allowed to escape to Pakistan and to flourish. The world carried on, and no one bothered. December 99, Christmas time, the whole world was celebrating the end of the century and the beginning of the new millennium. But many Indians were watching the television for any news of the near and dear ones who were hijacked and suffering in the cold land of Kandahar. No help from any nation." Unquote. The email concluded by saying that India has time and again spoken out against terrorism, but to no avail. However, now India has stood by a nation in an hour of need. The really amazing thing is that the US has once again allied itself with Pakistan in its so-called war against terrorism, ignoring the fact that the Taliban was largely the creation of the ISI and Pakistan. Osama bin Laden too had been built up by the American CIA, similarly in its fight against the Soviet forces in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Reading the article of Mr. A.P. Venkateswaran, our former Foreign Secretary. Now we will be joining at lunch, although belated, and we will finish our lunch within, I think, 20 minutes, because 20 or maximum 25 minutes, because so many speakers are still there. So my request is kindly expedite. Let us proceed on second floor. Thank
यार क्या कार्यक्रम में छोड़ दे क्या ये कंप्यूटर फॉलो में ले कर दिया ना लड्डू वड्डी का लड्डू वड्डी बोलना कंप्यूटर फॉलो नहीं करता ये नहीं कहता कंप्यूटर फॉलो नहीं या कुछ नहीं कहता इसमें मेरा नाम है कुमार शर्मा मलाई कस्तो लिया apa gitu delen deh oh kamu terforum
equipped, trained and deployed under his leadership within a record time of 6 months. This force is providing a cutting edge to the security forces in Jammu Kashmir today. For this outstanding contribution of his, he was awarded Padam Vishesh Seva Medal by the President of India, Lieutenant General P.D. Bhargava. But now my request to our speakers will be to speak for not more than 5 minutes. Yes, I am highly obliged. Not only I, but my other colleagues also, if you kindly do that.
Because I have a strong suspicion that after 3 minutes some people will be snoring. I'll try to finish. Honorable Chairman, sir.